Hey guys, so sorry I haven't been around for a while. I've been pretty sick, but I just saw that Dominiel posted the news on the hero balance and future system for improvements notice. The first thing that I want to talk about here is the ML hero balance adjustment. So I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I'll put the link in the description below if you guys want to read through it all. But I want to go over some specific things. So first of all, the 4 units that they were nerfing: Silverblade Armament, Sage Ball and Sezen, Arbiter Vildred, and Crimson Armament. So with Silverblade Armament, before or Flame Release, which is her passive skill 2, if you attack a unit that's burned, you'll gain 30% combat readiness. You're changing that to 20% combat readiness. So I think this is pretty fair. Overall, it still feels quite strong. That big CR gain, the opportunity for Sira, Ren, or Abyssal to go with that is very strong still. They're changing her Meteor Fall. It says drops a giant meteor to stun all enemies for 1 turn with a 40% up to a maximum 50% chance to inflict 3 burns for 2 turns. It says the cooldown's 5 turns, but cooldown for this is actually 4 turns. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Maybe they're changing the effect rate or changing one of her skill ups or something on it, but I'm not quite sure. They're changing it to increasing the cooldown time by 1 and removing 1 of the burns. So I think this is a really good balance. Overall, she's still going to be quite strong, but she's not going to be as oppressive as before. The turn rotation will be slower, as well as the amount of damage inflicted from the burns will be lower. 2 burns still feels like a lot, but at least the 3rd one is gone. So there is a sense of balance to this. However, I do think she's still going to be very good, and the uniqueness of her kit still remains. So Sage Ball and Sezen actually got quite a few changes. The Dispel chance and the Sleep chance have not changed. However, he no longer dispels 2 buffs. He now only dispels 1 buff. And they have lowered the amount of combat readiness he gains by 5%, which isn't super significant, but it still helps. And then they've added a turn to his cooldowns. So dispelling this 1 buff instead of 2 slightly changes his effect. First of all, he won't be as strong on turn 2. He'll be a lot stronger on turn 1. And Fallen Cecilia will be quite strong against him due to having that early turn 1 shield. When it comes to dispelling, I don't think it's random. I think it picks the buff that's on the left. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be stripping the barrier. So if you can break the barrier, then you're great. But, you know, most people aren't going to build a Sage Ball that can do that. So it can be useful, but it won't be as oppressive as it was. It'll still be good versus like the 99% of people, but the 1% will always still beat you. For Arbiter Vildred, recently they buffed him to the point where he was insane. They overbuffed him like crazy. When you die, when you receive lethal damage, you come back to life, gain 100% combat readiness, full focus, and an attack buff, as well as a reset for Dark Blade. The only thing they removed was the attack buff. So they felt that the damage was too high, but the rest of the kit was still fine. It was counterable, and it was in an okay place. I'm okay with this change. I think it's fine. The other change I would have liked would have been maybe, instead of removing the attack buff, changing the combat readiness gain. But I'm okay with what they've done here. I think it's a fair balance. There are still a lot of counters to Arbiter Vildred. Obviously, you do have to go out and actually build them. But Arbiter Vildred is manageable, and a lot more manageable in this case now too. It'll be easier to tank him out. The last unit that they nerfed was Crimson Armament. Now, I feel Crimson Armament got a really, really big nerf. I don't think she needed to get the full nerf. I think some things about her kit were too strong, but not everything. So for her skill 2, the passive, they've reduced the damage by half. The damage mitigation is reduced by half now. So instead of being 30% before, now it's 15%. I think this would be okay because it's comparable to Adamant Shield if they didn't nerf anything else. But I think they also took too much away. I think instead of 15%, maybe bringing it down to 20%. Instead of knocking her by half, maybe just knock her by a third. But what I don't like that they changed is I don't like that they changed her skill 3. So her skill 3 before would give 3 turns of immunity and 1 turn of invincibility. And now it only grants 2 turns of immunity. I don't really agree with this. I really liked the way her kit worked before for the 3-turn immunity. It made her a great offensive option as well as a defensive option. But I feel like they've changed a little bit too much about her. I understand she is a 4-star Moonlight hero, and maybe they're trying to nerf her into more of a 4-star role. But with where she is in the game and, you know, how she kind of fits that, like, quote unquote necessary evil, I feel like they gave her a little bit too much of a gut. Besides that, I personally don't agree with what they're planning on doing for the recall system and such. I think recalling the units would be fine. I don't really like the idea of getting these Moonlight Hero selector tickets where you can swap them in for something else. The reason I don't like that is because it's just going to cause a lot of like meta whoring issues where people are like, oh, well, better just change everything to Dark Corvus Ruel. We're just going to see a billion Dark Corvus, a billion Ruel everywhere because, you know, they haven't been changed or nerfed and they're really strong. And then if they get changed or nerfed, well, is it going to repeat the cycle where we just get selectors over and over? However, I do like what they're doing with the imprints. So if you recall with imprints, you're going to be getting unknown slates in that case. And for the 4-star, you'll be getting what's called a meteor shard. It's a tentative name, but it's basically an unknown slate for 4 stars. So overall, just to go over the recalls again, I like that you're able to recall them. I like that they're giving out unknown slates for the imprints. I do not like the selector idea. I don't think it's very good because it's just going to cause this like circle jerk repeat cycle of meta whoring units when they're buffed and nerfed. The units they were talking about buffing, Basar, Yufine, Lilibet, Lidica, and Assassin Kali, they have the specific buffs that they put out in another patch note, but I think they might be making a couple other changes to that. So, you know, keep your eye out for those. They have said that the patch, or that the balance patch will be September 5th, so we have about a month before we can kind of get into that. They're postponing Season 3 for Arena, and the reason they're doing this is because they feel that it would be unfair to make these huge changes mid-season when we know about them, instead of just, you know, postponing the season, starting it then. For skills and bug fixes, they're talking about implementing and improving hero skill descriptions, so we no longer have ambiguity involved in skill descriptions. Things will be more clear, numbers will be very clear and dignified, so instead of just saying like, you know, this skill will do this, they'll say this skill has a 100% chance to do XYZ or whatever you're talking about. Something that I thought was really, really interesting that they're doing, I'm just going to skip over the battle system improvements and the balancing quality improvements. I don't think they're really important for me to go over. They were talking about a different team that they have working on hero balance and such, as well as looking at other content. If you guys want to read through these, you can yourself. The last thing I wanted to talk about that was really important was the memory imprint improvements. So they've said that the system that they'd like to implement is, so currently memory imprints apply to all units except for yourself, based on, you know, the slots in the navigation. What they've talked about is actually having a choice between a party imprint or a solo imprint. So your solo imprint would apply to only your character. So let's say you have a Vildred and you only want to use the speed imprint for himself, you could choose to do that. I think that's a great idea. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the game is going. I think the direction is pretty good. But I want to talk about one last thing before we finish this. I'm going to talk about the summon system improvement notice. So there's been a lot of debate and a lot of discussion about removing MLs from the game, or galaxy bookmarks and gold transmit stones and such, and changing it into this new system. So what they've done is they've given us a 5% chance to pull an ML unit when pulling a Covenant bookmark. So they removed the 5% from the 3-star artifacts, as you can see here. So this is a pretty decent, pretty nice change to artifacts. Less chance of getting the garbage ones. Personally, I like the powder more than I like pulling units, but not everyone agrees with me. That's kind of a personal thing. So what they've done with the Moonlight Heroes is a 0.15% chance to pull a 5-star Moonlight Hero, a 0.5% chance to pull a 4-star Moonlight Hero, and a 4.35% chance to pull a 3-star Moonlight Hero. So pulling a 3-star Moonlight Hero is equivalent to pulling, approximately equivalent to pulling a 4-star regular hero. A 5-star Moonlight Hero is actually similar to the same chance as it was before. But overall, I think the rates are moderately fair, considering how easy it is to obtain Covenant bookmarks and such. So overall, I'm not too upset about it. Something I don't agree with and I don't like is this. You can agree with me or disagree with me. It's up to you. I don't really care. But I disagree with the idea of ML5 pity. So it says, in order to make improvements, we plan to introduce limited summons for Mystic Summons as well. A player does not receive a 5-star Moonlight Hero within 200 summons, which is 10,000 Mystic Medals. Then on the 201st summon, they will be guaranteed to receive the featured 5-star Moonlight Hero. The guaranteed summon counter will not be reset if the Moonlight Hero list is reset. So what I don't like about this is basically it says buy both months. If you want the ML5 really bad, buy both months and buy every single Mystic pack. And you should get close. I don't really like that idea. I don't like the idea of price tagging those things so hard. And yeah, like they made all these great changes and then they did this and it feels like, hey, we want to make the game more accessible. We want to make the game better. And then they turn around and they say, okay, now hand us all your money. I don't agree with this. Some people will. Some people will really, really like it, especially the people who have done over 10,000 and not gotten anything. I feel for you. I understand your frustration, but I'm a believer that is gacha games, right? This is a competitive turn-based gacha game. This is not a collection-focused game. The goal is not to have every single unit in the game. Past that, the last thing that they mentioned is they're going to be refunding 50% of the in-game materials used for summons or galaxy bookmarks and mystic medals used until 8/20 at 1500 UTC. So right now it is actually the 31st of July in UTC. It's actually around this time in UTC right now. So if you're planning on it, you could spam all your mystic medals and your galaxy bookmarks now, or you could save them and do what you want with them. But I will be doing a pretty big summon session. I want to get some sage balls, or I want to get some regular ball and season for some unknown slates. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything in the balance patch or the notes, etc., or anything at all, please leave a comment below. I would be happy to respond to you when I have the opportunity. And I really hope that you guys like the direction that the game's going in. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So I hope to see you guys soon. Cheers.